last time I voted Republican, almost all the way down the ticket, I voted for Trump. I'm so excited to change that vote. So the thing that tipped me over the edge is reading the GOP platform. There is so much that I find hateful. It's way too extreme. That children should be protected. They should be safe going to school, going anywhere. Women should be protected. We gotta stop targeting people and just protect everyone. I love Texas, but it needs to be better. Absolutely. I was a Republican in 2020, and now I'm voting for Beto.
So I'm a Republican, but I genuinely would like to know what your plan, if you were to become governor, what is your plan to do about mental health?
We are 51st in the nation today in mental health care access. Our largest provider of mental health care services is the county jail system, because our fellow Texans who are uninsured all too often go to the county jail as the only place where they're guaranteed some level of care. $120 to do that. Imagine what we would spend. It would be a fraction of that to expand access to mental health care to everyone who needs it. I mentioned earlier expanding Medicaid, that $10 billion that would come in not once, every single year to this state. We use it for primary care. We use it for obstetrics. We use it for mental health, making sure that we have more psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, and social workers right here in this community. So expanding mental health care and taking us from 51st in the nation to first, if I have anything to do with it, is not only the right thing to do, it'll make us so much more stronger economically. It'll improve the lives of every single one of us. And again, it will reduce pressure on our property taxes.
But on some other stuff that you said, I can kind of back.
There's some common ground somewhere, right?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you came over to say hello. And regardless of who we vote for, I'm here to serve you and do better for you. Thank you. Thanks again. Yeah.
I have been a Republican all my life. I came here to hear Beto for the first time. What's important is the children in the schools, the education, the property taxes. I would love to have a better break than what I have now. And I also love what he said about possibly making cannabis legal. Because of my arthritis and body issues, cannabis would be a great help. I am a great-grandmother, and this is the first time I am voting for Beto and as a Democrat.
As an educator, I voted for Abbott years ago. This year, I'm voting for Beto. My wife and I are both teachers, and our daughter is starting her first year. We don't want to be political pawns. We want to be seen as the profession that creates all others. We want to be trusted. We want to be respected. We want to be valued. His support, his understanding of what teachers are dealing with, mentioning teacher pay. Out in these rural areas, the tax base isn't there, so the salary isn't there, forcing people to work 2 and 3 jobs, especially retirees who, as he mentioned, haven't had that cost of living raise for 18 years. That's unacceptable. He's not a politician. He listens to people regardless of their partisan stripes. I haven't voted for a Democrat for governor in Texas ever, but I will this year.
I'm definitely a Reagan Republican. Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and Dwight D. Eisenhower are my Republican heroes. It's a privilege to have somebody like Beto O'Rourke come and talk to us. We've never had a governor here. In my 32 years here. So
Really? Did you hear that?
32 years.
And I was impressed with the gentleman. One, he's a very intelligent, logical, interesting young man, and it's nice to have somebody like that run for the governor of the state of Texas. And I do appreciate his visit here more than I can tell you. It was equally important that we had so many people here today. So I wish him the best, and I think he will probably get a lot of votes here in Sabine County.
I used to be a Republican, but you've changed me, man.
Yeah!
And just following him little by little on Twitter, listening to his messages and what he says, the policies he wants to change things. Honestly, it's just, he changed me. It's all because of Beto. That's where it started. My mother-in-law and I actually have a sister-in-law. They're both teachers. They've been doing it for years. So just hearing what he wants to do and really get more in their pockets, especially what they put up with, they deal with nowadays, not knowing the safety of their own classroom. I mean, The fact that he wants to change all that to me speaks volumes. That's protecting my family. Our current governor, Greg Abbott, I feel like he's more about himself and what benefits him and his party versus Beto. I feel like he's more about Texas and the actual people of Texas, the middle class, the working people, and he's here to get more for us.
He used to be a Republican, but he's coming over. Yeah!
This is the guy. He's the real deal right here.
I'm a former Republican, but I will be voting for Beto all day long.
I voted for Trump in 2020, and here in 2022, I'm voting for Beto O'Rourke. I've grown up with a speech impediment. I have a stutter, and it has held me back a lot in making my voice heard. I have been told that I need to stop talking in class at home because it's a burden on others. But as I've grown older and known that that is utter bullshit, I have learned to voice what I think matters and have a voice for all of these things that are good and right and true, no matter how long it takes me to say it. And knowing that there's a governor here, a future governor, that is an advocate for those with disabilities like me is huge. This is the year that I'm going to make my voice heard at the ballot box. I'm voting for Beto O'Rourke.
Let me just say that of all the races I followed in the last few years, no one has been putting in the work like Beto O'Rourke. For years, literal years, while other politicians post tweets onto Twitter and do the occasional rally, Beto's been knocking on doors, meeting voters face to face, and holding intimate town halls. If and when Texas flips blue, it'll be because of the work put in by people like Beto. And let's be clear, Beto's job would be much more difficult right now if the current governor, Greg Abbott, hadn't made his disdain for his own constituents abundantly clear. This is a guy who's overseen a complete failure of the Texas power grid, where hundreds of Texans froze to death and 5 million Texans went without power last February. And Abbott's priority during all of this? It's declaring that gender-affirming medical treatments to trans youth constitutes child abuse under state law, it's imposing a bounty law against women who are seeking reproductive care, and it's holding three special legislative sessions to pass a voter suppression law. It is a lunge to the far right, topped off by an effort to entrench their own power because they know how unpopular their agenda actually is, so they wouldn't dare allow themselves to be held accountable by the voters. But sure, Party of Patriots. Got it. And it's not just legislation where Abbott's showing just how unfit he is for the office he holds. Texas has been ground zero for shootings, which Beto made clear when he interrupted the perfunctory photo op of a press conference that Abbott decided to hold to give himself political cover.
And at this time, I will pass the mic to Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Sit down.
You're out of line and an embarrassment.
Hey, sit down and don't play this stuff.
The next shooting is right now, and you are doing nothing.
No, he needs to get his ass out of here. This isn't the place to talk this over.
This is totally predictable when you...
Sir, you're out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Please leave this auditorium. I can't believe you're a sick son of a bitch that would come to a deal like this to make a political issue.
Yeah, you want me to come in? So we're following some developments here at this news conference here in Uvalde right now. That is Beto O'Rourke, who is telling the governor of Texas right now another shooting is going to happen, essentially putting the onus on the governor and the leadership in Texas right now, confronting him face to face at this news conference over the killings that happened at this elementary school. We should mention Beto O'Rourke is also running for office here in the state of Texas, statewide office.
The fact is that in Texas, since Greg Abbott became governor, there have been mass shootings in Fort Hood, Dallas, Texas First Baptist Church, Santa Fe, El Paso, Midland, Odessa, and Uvalde. And of course, Abbott knows how poorly this reflects on him, which is why he had promised to act to curb gun violence. In 2019, when a shooter killed 23 and injured dozens more in an El Paso Walmart, Abbott swore to do, quote, everything we can to make sure a crime like this doesn't happen again. His lieutenant governor, Dan Patrick, said he was, quote, willing to take an arrow from the NRA NRA in order to pursue stronger background check laws. Cut to 3 years later, and you're not going to believe this, but Dan Patrick took no arrows from the NRA, passed no strong background checks law, and Abbott didn't do much of anything to make sure that a crime like that didn't happen again, as we sit here in the aftermath of the most recent school shooting, this time where 19 kids and 2 teachers were slaughtered. I should note that while these Texas Republicans were making their grand promises to curb gun violence with legislation that never actually materialized, they did manage to pass a few major pieces of legislation that actually expanded gun rights, like passing a permitless carry bill, allowing most Texans to carry handguns openly in public without any training or permits. It was already legal for long guns, like rifles and shotguns, meaning now effectively all guns would be covered by permitless carry. They passed a Second Amendment sanctuary state law to shield Texas from any federal gun control laws. And they passed a law that would eliminate the governor's power to ban gun sales during an emergency and make it legal for gun owners to bring weapons into their hotel rooms. In other words, these Republicans and Greg Abbott saw these shootings happening across the country and thought to themselves, what we need is more unfettered access to guns. We need fewer permits. We need fewer background checks. Oh, a shooter slaughtered 60 people in a Las Vegas hotel room? How about we make it legal to bring guns into hotel rooms right here in Texas? So when it seems like Abbott and his supporters don't really care, that's because that's exactly who they are, and it's who they've always been. So if you're wondering why Texans are flipping from red to blue, it's because they recognize the abject danger posed by someone like Greg Abbott, someone who used his position of power to attack the most vulnerable, all so that he can feel powerful, so he can get his 5-minute cable hit on Fox. And meanwhile, Texans are the ones feeling the brunt of that abuse. They're the ones left freezing to death in their homes. They're the ones who've been stripped of their bodily autonomy. They're the ones who've been put in immediate danger as members of the LGBT community. So if you live in Texas, if you have friends or family members who live in Texas, you have the power to ensure that Greg Abbott's self-serving reign finally comes to an end, and to elect someone in Beto O'Rourke who actually cares about the people that he's running to serve. Before you go, couple things. First, if you want to support my work, the best way is to subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. And second, if you want to see and hear more from me, check out my website, briantylercohen.com. That way you can get links to my podcast, merchandise, ways to donate to voting rights organizations, and so much more. The thumbnail is also right here on the screen, so go check it out. And as always, thank you so much for watching.